ought to go to people in the order in which they can ask questions, so don't be surprised when it skips around on both sides. With that, we go to the gentleman from Kentucky, Mr. Massie.
I thank the chairman. Ms. Hairston, Mr. Corte, and Professor Contreras, you all mentioned this thing called public interest. Do any of you want to explain to me what public interest is in the context of deciding a patent dispute? Ms. Hairston, what do you mean by public interest, that the ITC should consider public interest?
Thank you for the question, Congressman Massie. We would say that in the public interest means that it is for the 4 factors that have been articulated in the ITC statute in terms of public health and welfare, competitive conditions, and other factors should be considered when looking at the public interest, that it should not be left solely to the ITC to determine that potentially infringing or non-infringing goods would constitute a violation of public interest.
Mr. Corte, how would you describe public interest consideration that you've proposed?
Thank you, Congressman. So public interest should be tied to the statutory purpose of the International Trade Commission, which is to protect American domestic markets. The ITC should not be taking any action, let alone an exclusion order, if it's damaging American industry. And that should be the sort of analysis the ITC should do under Section 337. That analysis should include what's already in the statute, in addition to other requirements like the impact on American workers, American factories, and the American industry at large.
Ms. Hairston, one of the remedies you said is if there's less than 10% of the product that's infringing or deemed to be infringing, assumed to be infringing, that you should still be able to import that product. Is that true?
Yes, Congressman Massie, that is a number that the 10% threshold is something that we suggested in terms of to invite conversation and dialogue. But yes, the 10% of the overall product is attributable to the allegedly infringing product. We believe an exclusion order should not be issued. Okay,
let me just say something. I'm appalled that you guys are here testifying like this. This is shameless. You're like here trying to divvy up the goods of the American inventor. What you're saying is that if you're only stealing 10% of the product, let us keep importing it. Let us just keep stealing it, as long as the theft is at a low enough level. And then this public interest notion. This is a communist term. What you are saying is it may be in the public interest to let somebody keep infringing. And the Constitution guarantees the right to exclude somebody from infringing. It doesn't say that the government can come in and figure out what a fair price to pay is for that infringement. Yet that is what all 3 of you, even you, Professor, are suggesting with this term, public interest, because we've seen it used in the past. And I am just appalled that you have no shame in saying that you should be able to steal product from an inventor in the United States, have it manufactured overseas in China, import that as a knockoff, and if you're only stealing 10% of the idea. Professor Doan, Professor Contreras suggested, it seemed like that this ITC concept is archaic, that's no longer needed, that's been supplanted by other means. But then I hear you say, well, Congress has actually updated it. Mr. Corte said that the intent of Congress, needs to be clarified. The intent of Congress is in the Constitution. We don't want you stealing things, getting them made overseas, ripping off American inventors, and then bringing it in here and selling cheap knockoffs to Americans. They're faulty. Professor Doan, is the ITC obsolete?
Absolutely not, Congressman. As I said, it was specifically amended for the purpose of at least small innovators in 1988 and 1994 to make it easier for small inventors, universities, to bring these cases. And I think that's an important task of the Commission.
Let me give you an example of whose hand's been caught in the cookie jar here. Apple saw this pulse oximeter technology, said, oh, let's put that in an Apple Watch. They stole the idea, stole all the people that developed it from the original company that was making these in the United States, went to China, had this cheap crap made, and tried to bring it in, and the ITC said you're infringing. Are you aware of this case, Professor Dunn?
Yes, sir, I am.
And That seems like that's the way this should work. When you got a big corporation ripping off a smaller corporation and trying to get the crap made over in China instead of made here, doesn't the ITC have a role to play there, Professor Dunn?
I think that is specifically one of the important reasons for the commission, particularly in the circumstance of a small inventor like a small innovation company like Massimo going up against a large importer of product, to be able to, after years of litigation, they've been in litigation for, I believe, almost 10 years in district courts, and the only relief they've been able to obtain is this ITC exclusion order.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you.